Hello and welcome back to Russ Plays Games. My name is Russ, and as you can see, we're arrayed back in front of the paint station. I wanted to show that this was the figure that I bought. And I don't remember exactly what her name was, but as you can see, she's completely naked. I painted on some extra features. And like I said, she was a succubus, so this was her, the backside of her hair and the wings that connected right there. But for some odd reason, they didn't hold at the time, and I just haven't put them back together again because I need to go in and kind of clean it out, and it's just been a mess, and I'm just like, yeah, forget it. So I'm not too concerned about that right at the moment. That's kind of low, way low on my priorities list. I actually wanted to see if I could do it. That was the reason why I bought that figure, is because I wanted to make sure that if I was going to paint someone who was nude, could I do it? And the answer is yes, I can. So, again, if you want to, all you have to do is just go on to reapermini.com and just search nude. That's it. And you'll find a whole bunch of figures that are in the buff. And you won't have to worry about it. So, here's what we're going to do today. I promised at the end of last time that we were going to get to Sir Ragnar, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, because we're not doing too much in terms of Sir Ragnar's skin, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time attempting to paint the red and then paint the flesh and then do all that stuff. Just doesn't need to happen. So this will become a lot more apparent when we get to that point. One thing that's interesting about this Sir Ragnar figure is that he's got a lot of chains hanging off of him. Okay. And those are going to be interesting when we get to them. I'll show you how we do those. They're pretty easy. I don't think I've actually shown off anything. Now, our guy here has a little tunic on. I was imagining when I first looked at the figure, I was imagining that he had that his whole upper body was naked like the barbarian, but it's not. It's actually, he's got a tunic on, like a sleeveless tunic that comes to about right here. Okay? So in the original Hero Quest, Sir Ragnar was a soldier of Emperor Karl Franz of the Empire fame. So if you know Warhammer Fantasy Battles, then you know about the Empire, Karl Franz being the emperor, the current emperor of the Empire, before Age of Sigmar. If you've ever played Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, then you'll know that Karl Franz is almost revered as like a deity in that game, because he's the emperor chosen by Sigmar, because he can wield the titular Warhammer. And most people don't really understand that part of it. That when we're talking about Warhammer, we actually mean that there is a titular Warhammer. It's flippin' amazing. But in this one, I believe he's just a servant of whatever king or person is up there. And I haven't read the full adventure, so I don't remember who he was supposed to be indebted to. Or who he pledged his service to. Because like I said a couple videos ago, when Hasbro did this remake, they used the North American rulebook and adventure book. So, but because they weren't partnering with Games Workshop this time, in order to make the Hero Quest game, they they ended up kind of saying, well, we're ditching chaos and we're going with dread. So, like, because the forces of chaos are kind of Games Workshop's thing. When you look at Warhammer, either one, either Warhammer, it doesn't matter. Chaos is the main enemy and a playable faction, if you so choose. Go Slaanesh. In fact, on Hobby Night, Amanda is painting up a Slaaneshi Keeper of Secrets right now, so it's kind of cool. I've never really gotten that much into the Chaos factions. I just know that Slaanesh was cool, but I just don't have enough money to be able to buy all the different factions and things like that. So, gotta deal with what I've got. But if I was going to play Chaos, I'd be playing Slaanesh. There's just something about Slaanesh that's pretty fun. Once again, we can kind of be a tiny bit messy here and there, because it's not that big of a deal. I think I'm going to do... This is going to be something different, so... Normally, with this paint, if you kind of thin it down a tiny bit, the black really shows through. Okay? And so normally, when I'm painting, I'll, go back over the area of his feet, 2 or 3, 4 times to make sure that I cover the entire area that I'm trying to do. But because he's walking around barefoot, I'm going to want at least the bottom of his foot to look a little grimy and dirty. Okay? And like some of them, like I can just leave a little bit of it here and there just to make it seem like it's, a little dirty, like his feet are a little dirty. So if you can kind of see, like I'm not making his whole entire leg look like his upper body because I'm trying to make it look like he's been kind of grimy and filthy. Okay, and that's just a little trick that you can do. That's not too hard. That will make it that much easier to kind of, make it a little bit easier just to get everything done the way it's supposed to be. And again, that just has to, that's just something that you can do rather than trying to grime him up, because that will just make it that much filthier and grimier in terms of just the paint itself. Okay, so it's just something that you can do with the paint just to make it, okay. And so, now, I just need to decide how we want to paint this guy. Okay. I think... Sorry about not talking. Once again, I'm kind of concentrating on trying to get the paint where it needs to go. It's not the easiest thing sometimes because you're trying to push it where it needs to go and it doesn't want to go. So my paint scheme for Sir Ragnar here is going to be sort of a dual tone red and blue with sort of brown pants. And basically I'm painting his tunic blue, and then I'll paint his little drape down here blue as well. And then the rest of it will be, paint a little lion on his chest red. So you can call it a tabard. Get out of here, you stupid fly. Now there's some rips in his tabard. So you want to pay close attention to that so that you don't paint over it. Okay? Or that you don't paint through it, I should say. You want to paint over the rips so that they stand out, but not so much that you end up with we don't want to do so much that we end up with stuff that doesn't look right. You want it to stay black underneath. Now, some people are probably going to look at this and they're going to go, "Oh my gosh, she didn't paint a huge swath of them." Well, yeah, that's because it's not the easiest to paint. But I'll show you here in just a second. Let me wash my brush. That's what we're looking at. And then that little design on his chest, I'm going to paint red. Okay, and then that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the holes in his tabard. Is I'm talking about these holes right up here. Okay, you want those holes to stay black as much as possible because that shows that there's shadow in between. Okay, the two pieces of cloth. And once again, like his feet, I can let this logo sort of fade. Besides, once I put the shade on, it'll darken down considerably. And I can go back and just very briefly highlight. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know what I'm saying? Like for this one, it doesn't have to be perfect because he's a prisoner, so his clothes are going to be torn and dirty and nasty and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but that's what we're going for. Okay. Now, for the pants, we're going to do the flame sort of last, okay? Get the rest of this done first, and then we'll go from there. Mostly because I have a plan for the flame. Ever heard of OSL? That's right, object source lighting. I'm not that good at it, but it's always a chance to practice some. want to give the impression, when we're looking at this character for the first time, we want to give the impression that he's kind of been sitting in the dungeon for a while. He's a prisoner of one of the minions of Dread, and he has been there for a while. And so we want him to look very dirty and disheveled and stuff like that. So we're actually not going to do too much in terms of like highlighting and stuff, because we don't want him to look nice and clean. We want him to look very dirty and disgusting. Because again, he's been sitting there for a while, just, waiting to be rescued. Okay. Because like your characters, he was sent out to find out what was going on with the world, and he got captured. You have to go rescue his ass. So when you're out there rescuing him, you can be like, yo, dude, thought you were supposed to be one of the best. What the hell? What's wrong with you? And again, things don't have to be 100% perfect. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this up off camera, and then I'm going to come back and we will kind of work on some more of Mr. Ragnar here. So I will see you in less than a second. Hello and welcome to Russ Plays Games. My name is Russ, and as you can see, we're sitting in front of my paint station. This is going to be a relatively short part because the first thing that we're going to do, the only thing that we're going to do today, is we're going to finish up Sir Ragnar. As you can see, I actually did highlight his flesh, but I didn't highlight his cloak or his pants or anything like that because you have to remember he's a prisoner, okay? So there's no showers, there's no cleanliness, there's nothing like that, so he's been kind of stuck in a dungeon for a long time, and so he hasn't had a whole lot of time to be able to, make himself look presentable. There's no showers or anything like that. So what got me thinking about OSL was I had done this particular OSL a little while ago, and I wanted to show you that this is Elderwood Academy, and Elderwood Academy has these amazing, what they call spell books, okay? And they're dice holders, they're miniature holders, they're different things that you want. And this one is my amethyst leather on with a gold trim with the purple foil Phoenix, Elderwood Phoenix. And it's a little bit more detailed. And then on the inside, I have a metal set of dice that is sort of a purple and gold color that I thought worked, really well with my paint scheme. And then I also threw this miniature in there. This was one of the first ones that I did as an OSL. It was a Reaper. He's a Reaper metal miniature. I can't remember what his name is, but he's got a staff and he's got a ball of flame in his hand, so he's like holding a ball of flame. Okay, And as you can see, I did an OSL on a little bit of his face and on his arms and up his sleeve, right up here, okay, before I lacquered him, okay. So I'm going to use him as sort of a guide for what we're going to do with Sir Ragnar here, okay. Now, the easiest way to look at this is you go in reverse order, okay. So the warmer tones are going to be to the outside, while the cooler so like the red is going to be more towards the outside. So that's going to be the first color that you put down, and then you're going to go to orange, and then you're going to go to yellow, and that's going to be kind of the brightest spot. Okay. So it's kind of the opposite of how we did the fire. So the fire being, the hottest in the middle, and then coming out, we're going to actually radiate out in terms of the red and then go from there. Okay? So, I always get a little nervous when I do this. So I'm afraid I'm going to screw up and then be like, no, what did I do that for? Ah, stupid. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint this red sort of around the top of his fingers. Okay? And one of the things that you have to remember is where is the light hitting? Okay? And then you're going to sort of stretch that down, okay, along the length of the person, okay? And then you're going to feather that out on both sides, okay, to sort of show, and it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, because again, it's light, not necessarily just color, okay? And so you don't want to dominate it, okay? Unless this is your only light source. Now, as I described before in the last video, when I was talking about OSL and how a guy, painted it from one specific part to another specific part, okay, he sort of looked at it from the standpoint of, where is this hitting? How am I, gonna do this? And then he would use the, like an airbrush or a spray can to kind of direct where the light was going to go. And there's been some OSL that I've seen where it's like the only object of light is whatever they're holding, okay? And so if that is their only source of light, okay, then you have to be very, very careful and cautious about where you want to put, some of this stuff, okay? And so as a newcomer to the OSL movement, I'm not over fond of doing it to the point where it's my only light source yet. I'm not that artistic, okay? Now, one thing that you have to remember is that we are going to we are going to be kind of coloring the hair up a little bit as well, okay? So you want to make sure that you're getting on the hair as well. And remember that the further away from the light source, the more diffuse the light is. Okay, so you want to make sure that the more that you're radiating out from the light, the less it gets. So if you look at what I've done so far on the character, I've colored the side of his face, I've gotten a little bit of his hair, okay, and then I've gotten all down his arm and around his hand, okay? Because that's where, if you're holding a torch and you're holding it up like this and this is on fire, the fire is going to be hitting about where my arm is sitting, okay? So all of this is going to be in shadow, all of this is going to be in light, okay? And so you can take that as far as you want it to go, okay? Now, for the next color, when we get to the orange, okay, we're not going to do as much. We're going to sort of concentrate this color in the very center, okay? And again, like with the red, we're going to feather it out, okay? So we want to grab right around the hand once again, okay? Just like we did with the red, okay? But this time what we're going to do is when we come up the center of it, okay, we're going to feather it out a little bit, okay? And it'll make a lot more sense once we get to the yellow, because the yellow is going to be very, very targeted, okay? So what we're doing is we're getting some of these. Let me see here. Where we're putting the orange this time is we're only putting it on 3 strands of his hair, okay? And the reason for this is because we are attempting to bring this into the warmer color, okay? So we're trying to get this to look like the orange is starting to get brighter, okay? And we want it that way. Why do we want it that way? Well, because when we put the yellow right in the middle, okay, to make the brightest part, that's going to give us the illusion that that OSL is right there. It's becoming a little bit brighter, okay? And when we do the hair this way, okay, we're not doing the full strand. We're only doing a partial bit of it, okay? So as you can see, we're not getting the full strand of hair. It's kind of hard to see, I know, but we're not getting the full strand of hair. And as you can see, the orange is right in the middle of the red. So the red is down like this. The orange is about like this. And then the yellow is going to be right in the middle, okay? And again, it's going to feather out, okay? because this is our main highlight color, okay? So it's super bright. Now, if you've ever watched a Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy, or if you've ever watched something along those lines, okay, a lot of times when you're seeing OSL done or you're seeing a highlight done, okay, the highlight is being done in such a way that when they come back to it, okay, and they start to hit that portion of that highlight where it's starting to, they're starting to get like just the lines on the bridge of the nose, or like maybe on the chin or something like that. Okay, they're doing just a line, and then they'll go, now when you do the next highlight color, you're only going to do a small line because you're not going to do as much because you don't want to destroy the illusion that there's an artificial highlight. So a lot of this comes from that, okay, where we're drawing lines, but we're like scaling back the amount of paint that we're using, okay, so that it gets brighter towards the center, okay. So like for here, what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of give the indication that there's a little bit of light playing across his fingers on the top here. Okay, you don't want to do too much because again, you don't want to destroy the effect. Okay, and so we're just going to kind of do a little bit that way, and then once again, we are just going to get just going to put subtle indications of light. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. It's going to be really tough to see. I'm going to try to hold it as close as I possibly can to the camera without destroying the effect. It's very difficult with this kind of a camera. But basically, the whole point of this is we're just giving the subtle indication that there's a brighter light shining on him, just like that. Okay, and then you can see right there on his temple, I've got a big glob of it, but on his cheek and on his nose, it's more of an indication of the brighter light, not like so much that it's destroying the effect. Okay? And that's what we're looking for when we're doing OSL. We are not doing too much, okay? We are literally making it more about the actual effect of the light rather than what does this light represent, okay? So, for instance, when I'm doing, when I did this guy, okay, I had the sort of a burgundy red towards the outside, and then I put the orange, and then that's kind of my predominant color is the orange, and then right along the very edge of the hood is where I put the yellow. And then again, right in here, I just kind of almost dry brushed the yellow sort of over the, like just over some of the folds, okay, like this is all I did. I had very little paint, and I just kind of just dry brushed the yellow on it to give it that hint. And that's why when you look at him, see, I've got just the yellow here and here on his shoulder and on his bicep, okay? Because if he's holding the thing out here like this, not a lot of that color is going to get down here. It's going to hit here, okay? So it's going to hit his shoulder and his bicep. So he's holding that torch out like this, okay? And because he's holding it straight up like this, it's the light is coming down and it's hitting here like this. So it's hitting here indirectly and it's hitting here more directly, if that makes more sense. Okay? And that's why it's like on this part and like on here are just subtle indications of where the light is, okay? Because you don't want to destroy that effect, if that makes sense. Okay? And then I did it the same thing on the hair, where I got just a little bit of the outside edge of the hair in the yellow, okay? I know it's hard to see, but basically, and I'll use one of these, but basically, like right up here, okay, right along, you can kind of see it now, on the tip of his hair here, and then on here, and then on here, okay, it's just a little dot, okay, and that's because that's where the light is coming directly across and hitting, okay, and everything else is diffuse around it, okay, because again, hair is oily, it's got a little bit of a sheen to it, but again, he hasn't had a lot of chance to do it, okay. Now, if you watch Lord of the Rings, this is a good example. Viggo Mortensen, who played Aragorn, when he arrived in New Zealand, he didn't have a whole lot of time before filming started. So they basically, like he grabbed a bunch of his gear and then he took off into the wilderness for like a week, okay, before he came back to start filming. That's why his hair looks stringy and greasy and nappy, because he didn't take showers or baths for months on end, because his character is Strider the Ranger. He's out. He doesn't take a lot of baths, okay? The only time that he took baths were like at Rivendell, and then he took a bath. I think he got cleaned up a little bit after Helm's Deep, and then like right before they went to the Black Gate, and then right before he got coronated. Okay, but in between those 4 times that he took a bath, that he got cleaned up, like look at his hair. Okay, it is stringy and greasy and nasty because he's not taking a bath or a shower in between those times. Okay, he's literally living off of the land. Okay, and like because he wanted to look that way, he wanted his character to look stringy and nasty and greasy because that's who he is, right? Okay, so when looking at that kind of stuff, you can, if you want, you can try to make it look that way. But if you look at when they're underground and they're using artificial light sources, okay, and you look at his hair, it doesn't reflect a whole lot of that light, okay? It's just a weird thing how hair reflects light. It is odd, okay? It doesn't reflect as much as you think it does, okay? There is one last thing I could do, and then I think we're going to call this an episode. But I just thought about this. What we're going to do is because these parts are metal, I'll show you what I did here. It's very, very easy to achieve. This is one of the easiest ways that you'll do this. And the other way that you can do it is if you wanted to, you could also kind of reflect a little bit of the light off of the tunic and that kind of stuff. I didn't choose to do that. If you want to, you're welcome to. But basically, across the top here, I put a little bit of a line of yellow paint right here on this because it's metal. Okay, so it's gonna reflect. Okay, I put a line of yellow on his right there. Okay, on that, and then I put some yellow on here. Okay, where the light would be coming down and reflecting off of his little this little metal part right there. Okay, so that's another way that you can do some OSL. Again, if you wanted to, you could draw some red down in here and then maybe put a little bit of orange on it. You could put a little bit of the red and orange here just to kind of, show that it's reflecting off of the clothing. It's however you want to do it. Again, it's your world. You do it how you want. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is object source lighting. Okay? It's difficult. It's not an easy thing to achieve, and it takes a lot of practice, okay? So I recommend watch this video a few times, okay? Really pay attention to where I'm putting the colors and how I'm putting the colors on, okay? And I will post up in this one, I will post up my Instagram account. You can come follow me on Instagram. You'll have to go, because I have it set to private, so you'll have to click on it and you'll have to do it, and then I'll just tell me that you're from, that you follow me on YouTube or whatever. And I will post up some pictures of these two, okay, with really good lighting so that you can really see the OSL done well, okay, from me, okay, because I'm not the best at this, but you can at least understand how the OSL is working and how things are going. And I might even just kind of like do a little bit more on this guy just so you can kind of see that actual OSL. The reason why I didn't do too much on this guy is because his hand is blocking 90% of where the light's coming from on the bottom, okay? So I tried to get a lot of it in between his fingers, here, 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 and here on the insides, okay? And then tried to leave this as brown as possible, because if you look at it, the ball of flame is up in here, but this guy, he's actually doing this, okay? And the flame is up here. So it's actually going to cast the light out around like this, okay? So you're going to see a lot more of the light here, but not so much of it down here, okay? And that's what I'm saying. If he's holding it like this, you're not going to see so much of it down here. You're going to see more of the bright light here, if that makes sense, okay? So that's what I'm trying to explain to you, is how object source lighting works. And there are a bunch of videos out there online. You can go on YouTube and just search miniature paint OSL or object source lighting, and you can find a whole bunch of videos on it. And there are a bunch of people that will, that will talk about it and that will do a whole bunch of different things. So yeah, I'll post up a couple of these on Instagram, and that way you can kind of see. And I'll just kind of post them up as a series. Like I'll take a bunch of different pictures and different angles and different things like that, so that you can see where that OSL comes in. Okay? So smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, let me know what you thought of the video so far, what you think of the series so far, and keep it locked here. I think once I'm done with these right here, now that I'm done with him and done with the barbarian, I think I'm probably going to put these away for a little bit. I'm gonna go back to the sword and sorcery thing. We're gonna do the next quest or two in that one, and just kind of get some of that get some of those done, and then once we get done with that, we're gonna, kind of then probably pull out the paint stuff again and go to town on it some more. So I hope that you had a wonderful day, and I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope that this has really helped you because I know how much it would have helped me when I was first learning how to do a lot of this stuff. A lot of these techniques that I'm doing, I'm cobbling together from other people because it's difficult for me. It's difficult enough for me to learn this on my own, and so I'm trying to pass that knowledge on to you. So thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one. We're back. So you'll probably notice something a little strange. I've changed my shirt, some different things like that. Well, that's because when I last left off, it was like a couple days before. And so for you, this will be less than a second, but for me, it's been a couple of days, only because I got busy doing other things, and then I did some other things, and been watching some TV shows, and been doing some crazy things, so I completely just kind of went in another direction for a couple of days. Needed to kind of get up from the table, needed to kind of, get away from this for a little bit and just kind of say, I need to kind of look and see what, you know, I wanted to do and all that kind of stuff. So, we're going to finish up our Sir Ragnar here. And so, what we're going to do is, okay, we're going to get across the top this guy. So to paint the chains, it's kind of hard to describe, but basically what you're going to end up doing, okay, is you want to paint just the edges of the chain link, okay, just like that. Because if you don't, then it ends up getting paint down where you don't want it, okay? And believe me, that's never fun when you get paint where you don't want it, because then you have to go back and try to do the whole thing over again, and it sucks. Sorry, there's a little thing flying around here. always happens when I'm right in the middle of doing something, my hands are full. Darn thing comes and lands on me like, haha, you can't hit me. Okay. Now there's a big chain going down the back of the character here. Okay. So what we're going to do is, again, we just need to pay attention to what is the chain. Okay. And we just want to grab just the chain links themselves. So okay. So what we're looking for is something like that, where we get that hint of blue in between, but it keeps the illusion that there's an actual chain link there. Okay. And so we're just trying to get the belt as best we can here. Okay. So we can get this belt done, and we just have to get his Okay. Now, said that we would do object source lighting. This is something that is an acquired skill, and by no means am I an expert or even half good at this, okay? So know that my skills are very limited in this area, okay? And I'm going to be very, very hard-pressed to get this to look 100% correct. But what we need... Okay, first things first. We're going to take Canyon Orange, or Cadmium Yellow, and let me see here, I think, yeah, or Flag Red. Okay. Now, if you look at flame, look at fire, okay, wherever it's going to be, okay, the hottest part of the fire is usually blue, okay, and then from that it goes kind of out to sort of a yellowish color, okay, and then from the yellowish color it goes out, and then it kind of becomes more orangish and red as it goes up, okay. So having reference images, something like this, or hell, even something like this, where I actually put a little tiny line of blue right at the very bottom of the fire, okay? And then I put the yellow all in back, and then I kind of painted the orange over the yellow, and then I painted the red up towards the top, okay? So, and then, to make it look like it was shining on the back wall, I actually put a hint of yellow and orange and red on the back wall, okay? And the reason why you do that, okay, is so that you get to see, okay, what your different colors are going to be, okay? Now, on this torch, and it's kind of hard to see because it's dark, but on this torch, there's like a little bundle of sticks around the bottom, okay? And then there's like a little bit of twine, and then it goes up, and then there's a thing here, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the yellow sort of across here, and then I'm going to pull it down, okay? And there's a reason for that. Because if you look at torches, if you look at torch sconces and various things like that, okay, they tend to be very they tend to kind of pull down. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this yellow down, okay? We're going to make it very bright right around the bottom. Okay. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to establish the flame. Okay. Once we get the flame done, then we can come back and we can actually do the OSL because we'll kind of know exactly what's going to be shining where. Okay. Because we're probably going to end up doing the shading first, and then we'll come back and do the OSL. Okay. So we may or may not be able to get it done this video, but we'll try. I'm not going to rush it, so I'm going to try not to rush it. Let's put it that way. Okay. Now we take some of this Canyon Orange. Okay. And we're going to kind of blend the two together. Okay. So you're going to overlap the yellow just a teensy-weensy bit with the orange, okay, in certain ways. You don't want it to be uniform, okay, and that's one thing you do not want to do with it, okay? You do not want uniformity, okay? So you're going to kind of dip a little bit down into it, and then you're going to bring it up, and you're going to kind of feather it up, okay? So that when you put the red over it, the red kind of builds over the orange, okay? So that you have the separation of the three colors, if that makes sense. And so, when you get done, you now have a sort of blend about like so. You can kind of see, that we have a little bit of a blend between the two colors. On it, it's going to look a lot more like the actual thing, okay? But fire is one of the hardest things to do unless you've got an airbrush. Airbrushes are usually the best way to do fire, and like I've said before, I don't have one, and I'm likely never to have one. Now, I saw one tutorial online about object source lighting where this one guy was saying that if you wanted to do an OSL, where it's like dark to light, that kind of thing, he was kind of like showing how you could, throw certain types of things together to make it, you know, sort of like you could put, you basically would like put almost like a spray can, you would put like a light where you want the light to be. So like you would take like a white spray can at about a distance of like this, and you would be like, and you would highlight the flame itself and then where the flame is going to be hitting. Okay. And then from there, you get to push, you know, the light source to where you want it. And so you get to kind of make it how you want it. And it just kind of all depends upon where you want things to be. Okay. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to take our Drakenhof Nightshade. Okay. So, we're looking, once again, with the shade and everything, we're looking to get into the little recesses and make sure you get some down inside the little tatters and various things like that. Because what you're looking for, again, when you do this, is you're looking for a good separation. Okay. Of where things are. Okay. And so we're really kind of looking to get back in there and just try to get as much of it done as we possibly can. And tooth ran out. I was afraid of that. Trying to listen to some music while we were sitting here painting. Yeah, I love it. Now with this one, you don't necessarily need to do a whole bunch with the actual logo in terms of like putting a whole bunch on it, because if you want to, you can actually just kind of dull it down with this blue, and that'll make it just that much better, to where you can just kind of throw it in there and say it's good. Okay. And then and this one doesn't have a lot of the dramatic folds that some of the other miniatures have had that we have done so far. Okay. So this one doesn't necessarily need to have all of those dramatic things on it, because a lot of it we're going to end up with our next color. And I think actually what we're going to do first is we're going to take our Agarax Earth shade here. And I'm going to get around all of these little parts. Okay. So we just want to get around the little metal parts here. Okay. And so in actuality, we really didn't have to do too much with it because we're really looking more for, like with these parts down here, where we can actually get a lot more of the definition of the different metallic parts. Okay. And we want it to kind of highlight those up a little bit more than what we normally use them for. Okay. And that's about it for that one. Now the rest of it will be the Seraphim Sepia. Okay. So I think I'll probably do another one. Probably do another video here just to kind of finish this guy up, and that way you kind of understand where we're coming from with it, because this OSL is something that kind of needs to be explained. And so we'll probably have a part that's only about 20-30 minutes long. We'll do right after this one. And then we'll go from there. Okay. So I'll actually probably finish up this off camera here because it's just about 30 minutes. And I don't want to do too much. Causes this to go crazy long. And like I said, we'll do one more little part of it. Okay. So, please smash that like button. Hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Let me know what you've thought of so far, this particular portion of it, and what you think of OSL, and are you excited to give it a try? I know this will be like the first time that I've really kind of talked about it. And so I don't want you to get super you know, don't get too excited. Okay, it's gonna take a little bit of time to achieve the effect. But when we come back, I will have had everything dry, and I will have done all of the highlights and everything so that we can focus just on the OSL. Okay. So this has been Russ for Russ's Movie Corner, and we'll see you on the next one.